It's all kind of weird if Mike's not happy that Marcus decided to pussyfoot around in his Porsche, where he was when he was buying it all and getting into his car with the fast food. Equally strange looks the plan of robbers, riding behind the right car, hoping that the driver will stop the car to clarify relations with the passenger. The boogeyman then shoves the gun right into the passenger compartment in Marcus' face, then immediately holds the gun outside the car, then immediately shoves it back into the car. An assistant with a microphone reflected on the door. The boogeyman moved the gun to his left hand, in the next frame changing his mind. Cliché, played improvisational situation works perfectly to disarm the criminal, and even at the first and the second hero. Yes, one should look for such an inadequate as this Frenchman Fouché. Not only that he shoots with a shotgun at a man who is half a meter away from other members of the gang, but also the leader did not even initiate the gang members in the details of the operation, that none of those present even knows about the plan to distract the police with a dead man in a cop's uniform. And somehow it's all a bit too overplayed, i.e. we are led to believe that all the cops will run to one crime scene, allowing the gang to quietly steal drugs from the police vault, yes, steal drugs, and cliched through a vent with the size of a grown man, and access to surveillance cameras, just by plugging into a panel right on the street. When the burglars pick the lock and pull the chain off the grate, a splinter breaks off the grate, letting us know that the grate is made of wood. And why bother with liquid nitrogen? It would have been much easier for the boys to buy a metal saw on Amazon Drescott from Marcus. Not a cop, just some suburban drecker. Captain's headed to the vault, change of plan is standing next to Mike. So, yeah, a narcotics cop tells his informant they've stolen $100 million worth of heroin. Oh, naive head. And the captain himself said about this incident not to talk about it, so that God forbid the journalists did not reach. Heroes smelled the smell of decomposing corpse not immediately as they opened the door, but only after walking a couple of meters to the scripted so to speak line of smell. Well, the guys did not want to call the Department of Homicide Investigation, decided to look for clues, but only to paw everything with bare hands at the scene of the crime, at least unprofessional. Planning to shoot the girl, Fouché takes a pillow to muffle the sound of the shot, but 5 seconds later his partner already shoots in the open. And this is just the beginning. Further on in the story this Frenchman will have a lot of inadequate Zakidonov. The girls came to visit in the afternoon, when the ringleader comes with his partners, it's still daytime. It takes Max no more than 5 minutes to kill, but when the gang chases Julie, night has descended on the city with lightning speed. Cliché, positive character in a dead end, quick us a handy pool, and that its depth is deep enough to extinguish the speed of a man falling from a 9-story building. Stupid Fouchette is so worried that Julie saw the extra and it is urgently needed to be removed, but at the same time leaves the corpse of another gangster, who is also an ex-cop, and who also led the gang to the drug depository, which prevented the corpse from being taken away so that there would be less evidence. Moreover, he didn't even bother to clean the place, leaving a piece of wrapper of stolen drugs at the murder scene. Which ties the murder and the drug theft into one case. Isn't that a moron? Narcotics captain's not the best. They got a witness, and he only sends one cop after her. And that's when they know she's wanted by an entire criminal organization. Moreover, Marcus, having arrived at the place, instead of taking Julie away as soon as possible, takes to dialogue with her, exactly until the 3 thugs show up at the hut. Wow, he followed the witness in his own car. What's next? Harboring a witness in his own apartment with no security? Marcus has the engagement ring on his finger. But after what his wife said, the ring was blown off his left hand. What else is a narcotics captain to do when he's got $100 million worth of drugs stolen, several dead bodies, and a witness alone in Mike's house? Right, play basketball during work hours. The blue ice pack from Mike's hand disappears between shots. What's with all the blabbermouths? One blabbed to an acquaintance about stealing heroin, and this one blabbed in front of a witness what club the gang was supposedly at. What's next? Free access to guns in Mike's apartment in a wooden locker with no lock. More to the point, the bad guys, or rather overconfident guys, having data on where the entire gang is supposedly located, go on a reconnaissance mission alone, without any backup. They would have called the special forces and surrounded the club. The investigation and the movie itself could have been finished, and Marcus knows that his face was exposed during the shooting at Julie's apartment, and still went to the club without any disguise. In general, everything was done to screw up a 100% successful operation to arrest the whole gang. Bandugans also do not understand, if one was ready to cut Marcus right in the toilet, what prevented the second to give a knife, and not to bother with this stupid package. And the point of the mustachioed man throwing himself at Marcus with his bare hands when there's a knife and a gun lying on the floor. Cliché, the hero needs to be alive, then the gun is unloaded or on safety. Having dealt with the two attackers, Marcus doesn't even think about handcuffing or calling for backup. He just walks out of the bathroom to have another fight with Mike. We're leaving the club in a hurry because of a chase. Why run to your car, which for some reason is not parked close to the entrance, and steal an obscure truck? Criminals fleeing from the police rush to chase the cops. How is that even possible? Okay, Marcus and Mike know that they're undercover, but how can the bandits be so sure that this isn't all part of a cleverly planned police operation, and that there isn't an armed SWAT team waiting for them around the first corner? Julie goes to the club in high heels. She leaves the club in sneakers and flies around the truck again in shoes. What is that smell? Ether. Ether. So there's ether in the barrels. Excellent. Except ether has a high density, 1 liter weighs 3.3 kilograms. There are 55-liter barrels in the truck, so one barrel weighs an average of 181 kilograms, but Mike throws 2-centimeter barrels as if they were empty, and they won't explode when hit by a bullet, and ether burns blue flame, not orange. At the moment of blowing up the car, the cables that set in motion the parts of the car allegedly torn off by the explosion are clearly visible. Here, the only trace that could lead us to the drug. What's the only one? Well, if one of the gang members owns the club, then go back to the club with backup, see if there's any evidence or witnesses. Fuck that, right? Better to go to the store to get shampoo for Julie. Protecting an important girl witness, as Miami cops see it, is taking her to check out a cheating wife, taking her to meet with former drug dealers, and most importantly, taking her to stake out a drug lab. What's the point of restricting Julie's movements with handcuffs? They're not trying to kidnap her, they're trying to kill her. Once again, the hero cops are playing dumb. They got the whole gang hanging out on a boat right in front of them. Call a SWAT team, get them all in cuffs, Julie'll recognize them all. But no, they took one look and went back to the house. At Mike's apartment in the gun locker are exclusively fired cartridges, all of them with punctured capsules. While the partners explain to Marcus's wife what's going on, a gun appears in Mike's hands. If Fouché and the gang hadn't been tied up hand and foot with the script, they could have finished off both Julie and Mike like seconds to 15 by now. But who would let them do that, right? And why would the gang decide to kidnap Julie now if all they've been doing throughout the movie is trying to finish the girl off as an inconvenient witness? The gang is on a leash dragging the resisting girl, but the unencumbered Mike still can't catch up to them. They forgot to disable the spark plug on the bottom of the cab. As the cars collide, Martin Lawrence is replaced by an understudy. The cliché hero is saved a second before he dies. In the story, the heroes enlisted a hacker to hack into the police database. But the screen at the time of the hack shows the Autodesk printer driver installation information. Maine, as a slave to the screenwriter, probably doesn't realize himself why the hell he called the police and told Mike the exact time frame when the heroin would be processed. Apparently wished with all his heart that his cell phone had been traced. While the bed boys roll in for a final showdown with the thugs, Smith and Lawrence are swapped out by two left-handed dark-skinned men. Julie hides the key to the handcuffs in her left breast. Reaches in with her right as well. Guns and body armor, but no helmets. Yes. What could be better than a surprise attack on a hangar full of armed thugs, without even knowing who is inside. Yes, after such a show-off, Fouché's men should have stupidly filled the heroes in the garbage truck with lead and killed Julie, but here we have a complete disorientation of the enemy and a sharp acquisition of slant shooting syndrome. And even yesterday the girl, who was afraid of death, turns into a real Rambo, and instead of getting away from the firefight, gives her pickup truck the properties of a detonator. The left portholes are taped with tinfoil, or they're not. Cliché of the 90s, before sending the villain to the other world, the hero just has to spike him. At such tremendous speed, Marha somehow spins the steering wheel too much. There is no Julie in the car in the distant background, though at close-up the white-skinned girl is between the two African Americans the whole time. The hero's clipping the bad guy's car at the very fence, but in the next shot, Cobra manages to spin a few more meters before kissing the concrete wall. Just before the collision, the Frenchman switched to a dummy. Mike has raised his gun and is aiming at Fouchet. In the background his hands are still down, and Mike's gun is not loaded. There is no cartridge in the barrel, as evidenced by the point of light passing through the barrel. But that's beyond me. Not to search a particularly dangerous criminal, not to handcuff him, and to turn sideways to him and have a nice conversation, it is impossible to believe how these professionals are still alive with such a level of indifference. This is probably how they work, relying on random signs in the form of sun bunnies.